We are live, so we'll give it a couple minutes here, a minute or so to get people to join in here, and we'll get going. How's your day going so far, Reed?
My day's going great. Weather-wise, it's a nice rainy day, which is usually a good sign to be in the office instead of being elsewhere. So it's always fun.
Exactly right. Cool. So we'll get people to join in here and then we'll get going. So today, the big topic is going to be employee benefits. What people are offering, some of the standard ones, and why we like to see it, as well as some I would say not traditional ones that we don't see on everyone, but some different things that you can do to set your shop apart, take care of your employees, and save money on taxes. So looks like we got some people joining in here, Reed. Um, I guess I just kind of wanted to let's start on health insurance, right? I think, if you have no other benefits, health insurance is probably the most common one that we see. Like you and I were talking before this broadcast started, is when I started working here, the majority of our shops were offering health insurance, and the majority of those were paying for some, or a lot of them were paying for all of it. And I would say, I've been doing this for 15 years now. Over that 15-year period, we saw a dramatic decrease. Especially probably 8 years or so ago, significant amount of people just going away from it because the cost of health insurance has just become so expensive. Now we are seeing more and more people start to go back to it and stuff like that. One of the biggest reasons I think is just to keep up with your competition. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it's a great tool as an employee retention to pick up the health insurance. The other thing that I would say is also a benefit by picking up some of the health insurance or more of the health insurance if you're already doing some is it's not increasing their wages, which means you're not increasing your workers' comp or your payroll taxes. So that actually is a nice little benefit to turn around and pick up a little bit more cost there. On the negative side, of course, guess what? It is going to go up. I don't think it'll ever go down again. You could also make sure that if you are offering the employee to pay some, do it pre-tax for the employee side of things. That will save you some FICA and Medicare taxes, probably even save you some workers' comp. So if you don't have like a cafeteria plan, make sure you put that in place. Again, that's a win-win situation. And even if you weren't paying any, and they were all paying most of it out of their pocket, at least switch it to a cafeteria plan to allow you a little bit of savings there as well.
Yeah, so one of the big things that Reed mentioned there, and I get this question a lot, is if you have a shop and you're paying for your employees' health insurance and they're picking up some of the portion of that, they get that as a deduction on their W-2 payroll. And so if you make $1,000 a week and 200 of that goes to their health insurance, then they only pay tax on $800. What they pay for health insurance is a deduction for them. Now, one of the things that I have to remind people is if you're looking at, a exchange-based plan that's just done personally, not done through the business, that's no longer a tax deduction for most people. There's certain situations where you can deduct that, but for the most part, that's going to be no tax deduction. And so I like to explain that to people because let's say that I have an employee that says, you know what, Hunt, I can get it for $800 if I go through your business. But if I go get it from the marketplace, it's only going to cost me $750. What I have to remind them is that's actually more expensive for you to do it that way because you are now using after tax dollars to buy that versus doing pre tax if you did it through the company. Yeah.
Good
Um,
point.
now,
Well,
go ahead.
I was going to say, sticking with health insurance, um, I don't see this often happening, but you may want to consider start doing it, either dental or vision. Personally, I would say vision is the cheapest insurance out there. Um, it's a nice bang for the buck along the way. I would even offer that to team members that do not participate in your health insurance plan because their vision or their ability to see is so important to the success of your business. One of the things here at Parmelis that we did is everybody is welcome to join our vision program at no cost to them because I feel it's so important that they're able to see and help the success of our company. And then dental's another cost one, but it's very low cost wise. Again, it's a nice perk. And again, if you do it, it's different than some of the other shops.
Yeah, and the big thing on that is, the Vision one I think cost us $11, maybe even a little bit less a month per person. So it's extremely affordable. It doesn't provide for a ton of stuff. It doesn't provide for LASIK or something like that, but covers routine checkups, and stuff like that. On the dental side of it, I think again that's only costing about $20 a month, $22 a month. But as any dentist will say, dental health goes into your regular physical health. And again, this is just not something that is costing you a lot of money, but it's setting you apart from your competition. If you have someone that's not offering anything and you have dental, vision, and health insurance, even if you're not covering all of that, I've seen so many people make, career decisions just based off the benefits. And I think that what we're seeing now in this super competitive market is that most people, let's say you're flat rate, let's say that you have an hourly employee. For the most part, I see pay rates very similar. If you got a flat rate guy that's making $35 an hour, in most situations, someone's not going to come and say, hey, you know what, it's going to be $50 an hour and be able to just poach someone like that. But different stuff like this, hey, you know what, you guys don't have health insurance. He's going to pay me the same amount of money. He's going to cover a portion of my health insurance. And so just little things like that can really make a big difference and set you apart.
And oftentimes that helps motivate the significant other to push that technician to go to your shop versus staying at the same shop or somewhere else.
Yeah.
So
The only other thing that I want to mention about health insurance is I see this come up every so often too is, if you want to go away from a conventional health insurance plan, there's the health, what do they call them? Health sharing plans, right? Reed?
health savings accounts or something like that.
No,
Yeah.
yeah. And so what those health sharing plans are, or ministry savings plans, is
Right.
they're essentially a co-op. And so it's not technically insurance. What it is it looks and smells very similar to insurance. You have a monthly premium, you pay the monthly premium, but these are not, they're nonprofit organizations. And so essentially they're not for profit, meaning that everyone pays in a premium. They get 1,000, 10,000 people into this. And then they use that pool of money to pay out direct expenses associated with health insurance. Again, the same exact model as insurance companies, just not for a profit. There's finer details about coverage, what they will cover and not what they cover. You can do your research on that. The big thing, though, is those health sharing ministries do not qualify for group plans like a conventional health insurance does. And so, again, you can do it, but it's very similar to the idea of going from a business plan to an individual plan. You're going to lose that tax deductibility, which if you can save enough money, it might be able to, overshadow that downside to it. But if we're talking about a 5% savings, a 7% savings, we're going to lose that money just on the, income tax deduction.
Sure. Some
Yep.
of our clients actually had those substantial savings, so it did make sense to go ahead and do that. And by the way, if you end up choosing a higher deductible policy, which lowers the health insurance cost, you can add a health savings account, which was, I thought you were going down the road, not the ministry one, but that would also be another option to fund a HSA. Again, that will help the employees cover their deductibles and other out-of-pocket expenses.
Yeah, HSA is a good point because, I would say the majority of health insurance plans that we see now for small businesses are HSA eligible plans. What makes an HSA eligible? You have to have a high deductible. The reason that most people go for HSA eligible plans is just because the monthly premiums are so much cheaper. And especially if you have a younger workforce that isn't going to utilize all those benefits, there's really no downside to go into an HSA plan. The big thing, though, is if you have an HSA eligible plan, you need to, if you're the business owner, you should be putting money into the HSA. It's a tax deduction for you, and it allows you, oh, look, Frank, I'm one step ahead of you here. It's tax deductible, and it allows you to pay for these medical expenses pre-tax. And so, Frank, great question here. Anyone else have questions? Shoot them in here. That's why we're here. It's not just, I can talk to Reed all day, so we don't need to be doing this online. So Frank had a great question here. As the owner of the company, can I have an HSA? Yes, Frank. If you have an HSA eligible plan, for HSA rules, you are treated exactly the same as an employee. Now, the only thing that I will mention here that's a little bit different is if you have an HSA, if you contribute to that, it's not a business expense. You actually get that expense on your personal taxes. But let's do a quick snapshot. I won't, spend too much time on this HSA, but the way that an HSA works is if you put $1,000 into an HSA account, that's going to be a tax deduction for you. And then you can use that money to pay for doctor's visits, insurance, I'm not insurance, co-pays, prescriptions, medical supplies, over-the-counter medicine. You can really get pretty aggressive on an HSA. If the doctor recommends it, you can buy a hot tub if you have a really bad back. So you can see that, if you're amassing money on this, you can use this for a lot of different things. Now, put this into perspective. If you need to pay an $1,000 health insurance bill or a $1,000 doctor bill without an HSA, you'd have to make about $1,300 to pay tax and then have $1,000 left over to pay for that bill. That costs you $1,300. If you have an HSA, since it's a tax deduction, $1,000 will give you $1,000 to pay it. And so, really good thing. Another thing about the HSA is you can fund it after the fact. So what you should do, if you have an HSA eligible plan right now and you do not have an HSA, go set it up and put $50 in there, because this has to happen before the expenses come up. So let's say that I'm a shop owner right now. I have $50 in my HSA. I don't go to the doctors. I don't go to the dentist. I don't spend any money on health insurance. This fall, I have to go get a knee replacement, and I now need to pay $3,000 out of pocket for that. I can put money into that HSA. I can put $3,000 into that HSA, get the deduction for it, and turn around and pay that doctor's bill. And so as long as the plan is set up, you could really have some pretty good planning opportunities here to really minimize some of these healthcare costs.
Oh, and the other plus is you don't have to use that money and you lose it. It's there. It'll perpetually carry forward. So if you go 10 years and you fund $7,000 a year, you have $70,000 sitting in there. And if something catastrophe happens, you have the funds to pay for it at that point in time. So it's not a use or lose like many other programs that are out there.
Exactly right. And like Reed said, a lot of people use this, and let's be real, everyone gets older. And when you get older, you're going to have more health cost,
Hey, I
and so
remember that.
Reed won't have any of that stuff. He's healthy as a horse, and that's why he doesn't put any money into his HSA. He's got his crystals. He's got all kinds of stuff that's keeping him healthy. But yeah, this is not something that you lose it. Now, as a quick aside, there is something very similar. So there's something called an FSA. So HSA is health savings account. FSA is a flexible spending account. Everything is almost exactly the same with an FSA. The difference with an FSA is that it's use it or lose it. So if you put $2,000 into your FSA account, you better use all of that expenses or you'll forfeit that money. Now, we don't really see, the only time that you would have an FSA is if you were in a health insurance plan that was not HSA eligible. If you have the option, you're always going to go with HSA. Again, if you do have this and you're saying, Hunt, I already know this information, perfect. Make sure your employees know this as well too, because the HSA, especially if you have that high deductible plan, is going to allow you to offset a lot of your employees' costs, and they should be made aware of that. Anything else on the health insurance side of this, Reed?
I think we've covered everything about the health insurance side.
Cool.
Want to talk about retirement plans?
Yeah, let's talk about retirement plans.
Okay, so we got a couple choices for retirement plans to offer to team members. You could go with a simple IRA, or you could do the 401k. The simple IRA is a lesser amount could go into it in a particular year versus a 401k. But I myself find that the simple IRA is a great starting point to find out if you're going to get participation. The plus side is if nobody participates and you put money in as the owner, thumbs up. There's no problem with it. If team members do participate, great. You'll have a 3% match. That 3% match is an expense to the business, does save you tax dollars. But more importantly, you're helping your team members save money for their retirement. Plus, you're setting yourself apart from the other shops because you're doing things like that. Got anything else to add on the simple before we talk about the 401k?
So, Reed, I'm a shop owner and I don't have any sort of retirement set up, and I'm looking to get one set up. You said that the simple IRA would be a great option for me. How much would me and my wife be able to put in there this year?
Well, Hunt, because you're less than 50 years of age, you would be able to put away $14,000 for yourself and $14,000 for your wife as well. In
So
my case,
$28,000.
$28,000. Now, if I was the shop owner, I get the geyser provision. I mean, the catch-up provision. So I get an extra $3,000. So I get 17,000 for me, 17,000 for my wife. I get $34,000 going into the retirement account instead of the 28, because government is trying to make sure that these old people like myself get to put away a little bit more money.
Cool. So, real quick on that, guys, if you realize this, so we have $28,000 going into it. For me, 34,000 if you're over 50. That's a good bit of money. If you're starting this early, you can get a pretty sizable retirement account just by putting that in there if you do this for a number of years. But the big thing here that I want to mention is if I put $28,000 into my simple IRA, I'm going to have a $28,000 deduction on my tax return. It's going to save me five, maybe $6,000 a year in taxes. The beauty of putting money into retirement is any sort of tax deduction almost always means I'm spending money, right? If I want to give out bonuses to my employees, if I want to buy a piece of equipment, I'm spending my money and I'm going to save a portion of that in taxes. The reason of why I always tell people is there's no better tax deduction than a retirement plan. Is in my case, I just put $28,000 into my retirement account. I still have $28,000. I took it from here and now it's just over here. Now I can't touch it till I'm of retirement age, but I didn't lose any of that money. And I also got a $6,000 tax savings this year. That's pretty huge. And so that's what I like to remind people a lot is, hey, a lot of people are like, $28,000, I'm putting that money in there. Yes, we don't want to touch that because if we take it out early, we get an early withdrawal, but it's a great, great tax deduction.
You have to
Um,
wait. You'll
Go
have
ahead.
to wait till you're 59 and a half to get the money out. And it will grow tax deferred for you too. That's the other plus side is it's money growing for you, and we're not paying taxes on it until we're in our latter years after 59 and a half.
Yeah, great point on that, which is the same thing on a 401k, which we'll get into next, is think about it this way. If I have $28,000, I want to make that money. I want to take it out. I want to put it into my regular TD Ameritrade brokerage account, play with the stock market, play with crypto, whatever I want to do here. That $28,000 after I pay taxes on it is now down to 22,000. How many years do you think it's going to take with pretty decent gains on that just to get back to the 28,000 that I took out? We're probably 3 or 4 years out. Well, maybe worse now of, looking at the market. Unlike that simple IRA, again, it's a tax deduction. So if I put $28,000 into it, I now have $28,000 into it and it's already going. So it's huge and something that shouldn't be overlooked.
And the fact of the matter is, we're not going to get any younger. So we got to start put money away. And I'm a believer. This is the biggest expense that a shop owner should take care and focus on for themselves, and be a little bit selfish and try to make sure that they're taking full advantage of it. And if you don't feel you could get $28,000 put in, do what you can. But I think I would have that talk with Hunt or myself and say, hey, well, how much do I need to do in new sales to get it so I can max that out
Yeah.
along with?
Or you know what? Bump up your labor rate. Hey, you know what? I don't have any money right now. All right, increase your labor rate $2 an hour. If you're a regular size shop, that's going to be more than enough to max out that simple IRA in a year. Probably if you're a decent size one, it's probably going to be even more.
And speaking of that labor rate idea, is a lot of shop owners tell me I can't afford to do the company match. Most of the time, if you just raised your labor rate 50 cents, it would cover the cost of that match. So don't give me an excuse you can't afford the match if everybody participates.
Well, and
So
another one of these things, just like you said, Reed, is hey, the whole idea we did this webinar is talking about benefits. So let's say I'm a shop that doesn't do any health insurance, I don't do any retirement, and I start to want to do this stuff. Well, hey, I'm going to turn around. I'm going to raise my labor rates. Why is this all going to be coming out of my profits? I'm taking care of my team. I'm making sure that my employees are healthy, taking care of their future, taking care of their family. I'm going to pass that along to my customers. Now, it's not like you need to go up $30 an hour on your labor rate, but it's a couple of dollars here, a couple of dollars there, and like Frank just said here, you can't afford not to, right? The big thing is everyone is focused on finding new talent, whereas a lot of people are overlooking who they already have in their building. If you lose one of your people right now and you're already looking for a technician, now you're looking for two technicians and they're not really out there. So Alex had a question here. I've been shut down by the banks on setting a 401k because we are too small. Other companies have asked for way too much money, which Alex is probably what this is a great lead into the 401k question. What are the best places to look for a 401k for a shop? So Reed, so we're starting out, we have no sort of retirement account. You said that you would go to a simple IRA. Why would you not go straight to a 401k?
First reason I would probably not go to the 401k is I'd like to see how many team members are going to participate along the way. And that way I could gauge the cost of the match will be. If I go to the 401k, I know there's administrative costs anywhere between $1,500 and $3,000. And if I'm not going to be able to personally maximize the 401k, I don't want to be spending that $1,500 to $3,000. All right. If I once I determine that, then I would start looking at a 401k that's called a safe harbor. The problem with the safe harbor, it's great. It allows Reed to put the maximum contribution. And by the way, for Hunt, his contribution would be 20,500, and for Reed, it would be $27,000. So it's a huge amount of money individually. And then if we double that for our spouses, it would be more. So you'd have to go the safe harbor, which means we'd have to give some monies to team members. And I like where the simple at least finds out how many of them are already going to participate.
Yeah, so the big thing on this is simple IRA is just that. It's very simple. It's almost free to operate. These banks, advisors, they really make almost no money on the actual simple IRA plan. That's good for us because it doesn't cost you a lot to get this stuff set up. But as some of you might have experienced this before, if you go to talk to ADP or Paychecks, none of them usually offer a simple IRA because there's no money to be made on it. They all offer a 401k because 401k, just like Reed said, have a lot of fees associated with it. General rule of thumb is what I tell people: if you have nothing, start with a simple IRA. You're going to max that out and you're going to get a great deduction for it. And again, like Reed said, you're going to figure out who else is going to participate in a retirement account. If you then figure out who's in a retirement account and you say, you know what, I've maxed this out, I've put $27,000 into this one, I need to do more, I want to go to a 401k. That's the only reason it'll make sense to go to a 401k once you've already exhausted all the benefits that a simple IRA can do. One of the things, like Reed was mentioning before, is a 401k can get extremely complicated on things. It can do a ton of stuff, but the general idea is there's rules in a 401k. If you have a business, you can't max out your 401k and give nothing else to anyone. They call that a top heavy rule, and they do not like to see that. And so in order to get around the top heavy rule for a lot of people, they have to give everyone a 3% match of their salary into their retirement account. Again, not the end of the world if you are going to be maxing this out, putting $40,000 or $50,000 in there. It's a great benefit to give to your employees. They're getting something for nothing. You're funding their retirement account. However, there is a cost associated with it, so you got to make sure that the juice is worth the squeeze there.
Uh,
Other question on this, Frank had one. Can I do catch up for last year? Simple IRA, 401k. Both of those contributions have to be done on payroll, and they have to be done in the calendar year that they're in. And so, what a lot of people do is, like Ree was mentioning before, we have a lot of clients that say, you know what, I'm just not sure I can afford it, or they're a little bit more cautious with their cash. And so they'll put in, a couple $1,000 a month. And here we are in November, and they say, all right, I've put 7,000 in there. I can put another $7,000 in there. And you know what? It's been a really good year. They'll write themselves a bonus check and put all of that money into their retirement account and move on with their life. Yep. Question here. I think Randy's got a question for us. I already have a simple, but who do I get to set up the simple? So simple IRA. So you can go to a number of different places. The biggest thing I usually tell people is talk to your insurance agent. A lot of insurance agents, if they're attached to a larger national one, they will do it. Depending on who you bank with, they will be able to do it as well. If neither of those, if you don't have a relationship or they don't offer it, then obviously a financial advisor would be able to do one of these for you as well. Any other thoughts on that, Reed?
My personal thoughts is I would start with the financial advisor, because I would think that that person is going to be helping me plan my long-term plan. This is just going to be a piece of it. And maybe that advisor will help me decide when I could switch from the simple to the 401k. Again, as Hunt mentioned earlier, the simple IRA, I think, is like a $10 per employee cost, and the employee's paying for it. So there's no money involved, and the advisor doesn't make any money. They're just creating a relationship with you for a long-term opportunity.
They make money, but on the
Not much.
back end of things,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, Alex, I hope that answered your question. Unless you already have a simple IRA and you've already exhausted that and you've maxed that out and you're looking for something to grow off of, go with a simple IRA. You're going to save yourself a lot of money, get the same exact benefit out of it, and going to be honestly just all around a lot easier for you. What I tell people is if you're putting $5,000 into it, simple IRA or 401k, it's essentially like driving a car at 20 miles an hour. Simple IRA is a Camry, 401k is like a Ferrari. At 20 miles an hour, other than the nicer seats, it's not really going to be able to outperform it. You're just not utilizing it to its full potential.
And once you're willing to put more money in, then grow up and move up to the 401k.
Yeah, and so we won't go down the rabbit hole of all that a 401k can do, but the 401k can grow with your business. All of our high income clients, or most of the ones that, are significantly putting some money away, have a 401k, and then you can do stuff on top of that. You can do a profit sharing, you can do a cash balance plan. More or less, you could put in pretty much as much money as you really want into it, as long as you have the cash to do so. We have clients that put $200,000, $300,000 into their 401k accounts. So it's something, like I said, it's a gradual scale here. Hey, if you're just starting off and you're trying to get into this savings game, you're trying to offer it to your employees. This is also a bit self-serving here because it helps you as an owner. Simple IRA, 401k, and then go up from there.
Bottom line is you should be doing something, whether for yourself or retaining or collecting new employees. So let's go ahead and at least do some kind of retirement plan as one of your goals here for 2022 if you don't have one.
Yeah, because the big thing on this, Reed, is let's say that you have a shop and you offer simple IRA. It's just another benefit. Hey, let's be realistic here. Of the shops that we work with, I mean, we probably see a 20% enrollment on retirements. Most people just don't feel like that they have extra money to put into a retirement account. And so you could throw that offer out there and say, hey, we offer, a simple IRA. We offer a match. Realistically, for most of your employees, it's not going to cost you anything because they're not going to put anything in there. And if they do, it's something silly and small and, really just doesn't amount to be a whole lot of anything.
But again, it still sets you apart. And most employees are afraid that they're going to lose out on their 6-pack of beer for the weekend. So that's why they don't participate.
Or some of them will come back and say, hey, Reed, if you're already going to match me, why don't you just increase my salary? And it's like, That's not how this works. I'm trying to help you, help yourself for your future.
Exactly.
Cool.
So what are other,
We have one more question here. Alex, what are the best places to look? Like Reed was mentioning, look up a financial advisor local to you. Talk to your insurance agent. Talk to your bank on simple IRA. This is something that you can do anywhere. I'm sure that there's probably an internet-based, financial advisory that could get this set up as well. The only reason I will like someone local for the simple IRA and the 401k is you can make them come out and explain it to your employees. It'll be a lot easier than you sitting there explaining the importance of this and how it works and stuff like that.
Right.
Great questions, though. So that's probably the big ones there, Reed, right? We got the retirement, we got the health insurance one. Do you want to talk about some of the other ones that we see and some creative ideas that, can kind of set your shop apart and at the same time take care of your team as well?
Sure, we could do that. Would you like to talk about keeping everybody healthy first?
Let's do that.
And maybe considering offering a gym membership to all the team members?
Yep.
Again, as long as it's offered to everybody along the way, it is one that we could have as a business deduction. Again, to me, I want healthy employees. I mentioned the idea of the vision and dental, and why not also be personally healthy? And let's go ahead and make sure we have a gym membership available for everybody along the way. So
Yeah, that's a great one. We have a couple clients that do this. Go to a local gym, someone that you have, and say, "Hey, I'm interested in getting a corporate membership for my employees." Um, the ones that I remember seeing off the top of my head on financials, I mean, we're not talking thousands of dollars a month, Reed. I think we're talking $100, $200 a month, and it's eligible. All of your employees can go there and use it whenever they want to. Now, you're also an employee of your business. You can use that same corporate one as well, but a really cool option that not only helps them take care of themselves, also allows them to be healthier in their lives for their family and everything like that too.
So
Cool.
something to
What
think
else you got?
Next idea, let's talk about mileage reimbursement if we had to.
Yeah.
Again, this is tax-free money to the team members and a business expense as well. And an example of that on the up and up would be is if you turned around and your team members had to go run and get parts for you, you could reimburse them for mileage. And I think it's something like 58 cents a mile or so.
58.5 cents for 2022.
Yeah. So again, they turn in a log, they get reimbursed for that along the way. If they, again, if your team members are going for classes, for tech classes, the mileage that they're driving, reimburse them for it at that amount of money. Tax free to the team member, tax deduction for the business. You're showing to the employees, hey, we cover everything for your training. We pay for the training plus the cost of you getting there, etc.
So let's put that into real numbers. And so if you have someone that drove 100 miles in that month, then they come to you and they say, "Boss, I drove 100 miles. Like Reed mentioned before, the mileage rate for this year is 58.5 cents a mile. So I can write a team member a check for $58.50. That's a deduction for the business that is not taxable income to that employee. If you drove 1,000 miles that month, that's $580. And so this is kind of creative ways where we can get money to our employees because we're reimbursing them, right? Reimbursement is an expense and not income to them. So a lot different than like a car allowance or something like that, which is taxable income. If you're reimbursing for their expenses, that's going to be a 100% deduction, no reportable income for them. What else you got here, Reed? I like the mileage one. I like where we're going here.
Can we also do anything with tools?
Tools. Yeah, and so we have a couple people that do tools. And so um, I guess let's back up and let's talk about it. So fringe benefits is a very broad term, right? Because what fringe benefits are is these are benefits that I'm allowed to give to my employees that are not considered taxable income. Like we've already mentioned, the gym membership. It's available to everyone that falls under the fringe benefit rules, not reportable, not taxable to them. Same thing with a tool reimbursement program or tool account program. So let's say that you have a shop that has 3 employees. If you say, you know what, part of the fringe benefit is I'm going to reimburse you for cost of your tools up to $75 a month. Again, this is a reimbursement, so that is not taxable income to them. I'm writing that check directly to Snap-on, directly to Matco, whoever it is. I'm getting a deduction on my business. The beauty of that is most of your guys already are spending money on the Snap-on truck, whether you ask them to or not. So we're allowing them to get money that's going directly to them. That's going to knock down their monthly expenses. That's going to put money in their pocket, at least indirectly. Also, if they're going to be getting money put into that Snap-on account, do you think that they might be a little bit more willing to go buy something that they might not necessarily have wanted to buy before? So again, this stuff, we're doing this to help our employees, to help our teams, but a lot of this stuff, maybe in a roundabout way is going to come back to help you as a business owner as well.
Well, since we talked about tools, one of the tools that an employee uses a lot, which most people don't think of as a tool, is their cell phone. They're taking photos of the cars. If you don't have tablets, they're using their cell phone and stuff like that. Could you reimburse somebody for their cell phones as well?
Yeah, and so, probably a little bit of a gray area, right? Because it's like, hey, you're only using this for business purposes. And generally the case is no, but the argument that we would have here for the cell phone is, especially now when I've seen a lot of shops using their actual cell phones for the digital inspections. Hey, you know what? I need you to have a cell phone to do that, or I need you to have a cell phone in case I need to get a hold of you. And so I'm willing to reimburse my employees up to set an amount of money. Hey, if you have a cell phone bill, I'll give you up to $85 a month for your cell phone bill. Brian had a question here. I think he was talking about the tool reimbursement, up to $75 each. There's not actually a limit on this. You could reimburse up to whatever, $750 a month. Two things keep in mind there. Are they going to be spending that much money, or are we going to just be giving the Snap-on guy a ton of money? And then also, again, this should be offered to all of our employees. So keep that in mind there. Now, I think sometimes it doesn't always get exactly applied to everyone, but same class of employees. If you have 2A technicians, they should be getting the same amount of money. Now, if you have a shop helper guy, would be considered a different class of employees. You could exclude him. But generally, if the IRS ever looked at this, they would not like to see you have a shop with 20 technicians and only one technician is getting all of these benefits. Wouldn't look great. One other question here, Reed, before we move on. Alex had another good question here. How about training time? Include on payroll or in a different account? And so he's talking about if you're paying your employees to go to training, most clients just include that. If they're hourly, then you would say, hey, I pay for training as well, and it looks no different. The only thing is, could technically get you into overtime if you're paying overtime, including the training. So you might be able to also figure out something that you could do maybe off the books, give them a gift card, something like that. Go ahead, Reed. What do you got?
So one of the nice things about the last few items that Hunt and I were talking about is all these benefits that you're providing in green dollars to the team member doesn't go against your workers' comp cost, doesn't affect the FICA, the Medicare. It's green dollars directly into their pocket, saving you about 30% of whatever you're giving them. The other plus is if you choose at some time down the road, you want to cancel it, you may do that, okay? Whereas if you give people raises, you're stuck with that raise and you can't go backwards. So there are some nice benefits of doing these reimbursements over everything else along the way.
Well, also, like I was mentioning before here, let's say that everyone in my town is offering about $35 an hour flat rate. Everyone is offering health insurance. Everyone is doing simple IRA. Again, these are things. How do you set yourself apart? Hey, you got a cell phone, right? Yeah, I reimburse your cell phone. Hey, you buy stuff in a tool truck? Yeah, I reimburse up to $75, $125 a month, whatever it might be for the tool truck. A great benefit because we know our employees are already spending this money. Let's give them that money to do this. This gives them more take-home pay, and again, sets us apart from our competition.
And I think the shop down the street occasionally might pay a couple dollars less, but provide these benefits, and they're actually everyone's further ahead by that situation.
Yeah. Cool.
Another common sense one is make sure you have food and snacks and healthy things there for the team members to eat along the way. Allow them sometimes to take little breaks from turning the wrench and get re-energized along the way. Again, it's not a huge thing, but if you showed possibly a technician, hey, this is the stuff we have here, might be better for them to come there instead of going somewhere else, who they always have to run around somewhere else to look for food along the way.
Yeah, one thing on that one, is, the Silicon Valley guys were the ones that came up with all these different benefits, right? And so at first there was a ton of press because it was like, man, look at all this stuff that Google is doing. How nice of them. Free daycare, free laundry, all the meals are provided there. They have a gym on site. You can do your taxes there. Like literally everything that you might ever want is all included if you work there and also is on campus. And so now what people have figured out on it is, well, now we've given someone no reason to ever leave. There's no excuse to go pick up your kid from daycare because they're already here. There's no excuses for you that you need to leave for a little bit to go get something to eat because it's already here. So again, in a much larger scale, they're giving all these great employee benefits that the employees are super happy about. At the end of the day, they're doing this for kind of a self-serving role here. Cool. I think Alex had a question. I was asking about going to paying people for training. I'll throw this one out to the crowd, guys. Chime in to Alex of what you guys think. If your guys are flat rate, I would say that most people would probably just give them extra flag hours for whatever they spent. So if they flag 32 hours this week and they did 3 hours worth of training after hours, I'm going to give them that extra 3 hours. I'm going to pay them 35. But be curious for other people, other shops in here to chime in what they do for their guys and how they take care of them for training. Cool. What else we got, Reed? We cover the big ones? We got anything else that didn't come up?
We covered the big ones. With the high price of gas, some of my clients are maybe buying some gas cards, having them available at the shop. Are they going to customers or going to employees? I don't know. So that could be a very, very gray area. But again, especially with the high price of gas, you're trying to take care of your team members. I had a client of mine that tells me he has two team members that are driving over an hour to get to the shop and probably are driving past other shops along the way. So he wants to make sure that there's enough fuel in their pickup trucks. And I think, thinking outside the box, I thought that was a great idea along the way. So.
Yeah, the big thing here is, especially this newer generation that we're seeing, people want to feel appreciated. This is not just all about dollars and cents. How much am I get paying? Are they investing with me financially? Are they investing with me in my future, taking care of me, paying for my training, really caring about my life? And that's what makes people stay. If you're the world's worst boss and you're going out to the shop and you're screaming at guys, I don't care how much you pay them. At a certain point, there's going to be one day where they're like, you know what, I'll take a pay cut just to not keep up with this environment. Versus if you're providing an environment that allows them to succeed and grow and prosper, if they might need some sort of pay arrangement or some sort of change on it, they'll approach you and they'll say, hey, I love to be here. I love working here, but we need to make this fair. So good idea. So we'll leave a couple more, minutes on here if you guys have any questions. The last one on here that Rita and I didn't talk about that, is not really an employee benefit, but, the whole idea we're doing this employee benefit is taking care of our team and, again, attracting new talent. One of the things on here, and because Reed printed out the top 16 biggest employee benefits on there, one of them was remote work, which probably wouldn't work super great for a technician. Flexible hours, again, probably not the easiest thing for a shop, but along that same lines, I have a lot of people that are starting to get creative on their hours of the week. And so, everyone that worked at a dealerships are almost always open on Saturdays, and there's still a lot of shops that are open on Saturdays. But what did a lot of the independents start doing is they said, you know what? Let's cut off Saturday. Now I can go to Reed and say, Reed, wouldn't you love to have your weekends back? Now we have a couple shops that have gone even further, and I have some shops that are open 4 days a week. It's either Monday through Thursday or Tuesday through Friday. How cool would that be to say, hey, you know what? When I come work for my shop, well, I'm pretty happy here. Well, how would you like to have a 3-day weekend every single week? Well, how does that work? Hey, instead of working 5 days, 8 hours a day, you work 4 days, 10 hours a day, and you're off Monday or you're off Friday. That's really, really cool. And the couple of shops that I know that have done it, they said at first it was a little bit weird for the customers, but after a week or two, it was no big deal, and all the employees love it. So something to think about here, thinking outside the box, talking to your team and seeing what they want to do, because if they don't like it, then why are you going to do it? But again, if it's something that they will enjoy and they'll get the benefit out of it, cool, let's do it.
On that same idea, you could do still open 5 days, just shift it where a group shows up the first 4 days and another or the same group or a rearrangement of things and work the last 4 days. So if you get enough team members that you could bring on board, you could sell the idea of 10-hour work days.
Yeah, and so we have a couple now. If you have a shop that has 3 technicians, going to be very hard to do this. But we have shops that are open 7 days a week, and no one is working 7 days a week. They run shift work, and so they can continually serve clients all around the clock every single day of the week. But then again, are splitting this up, and the teams are taking the shifts on it. Here's a cool idea from Randy here, Reed. Buyers Club. So apparently, I guess Randy chime in. So I guess you can probably, I do know this. So you can go to Costco and you can get a corporate membership, which would then cover your employees. Again, it's not a ton of money. I mean, a Costco membership is 50 or $100 a person. But again, something really cool. You're probably already using this for your business to buy supplies and stuff like that if you're local to one. And again, something to be able to offer to the employees. Great benefit. I love Costco personally, so I would enjoy that one. Now, I think that whatever benefit I get from being a Costco member, I lose by buying 8,000 of whatever junk I don't need. But I like their hot dogs too, so I'll give them a free advertising here. Go to your local Costco. Forget Sam's Club. We won't talk about them.
Um, Last benefit that we didn't talk about also is education. You already, you pay for training, but you could also have other team members that you could actually pay for training as well. Maybe a service advisor as well. And it doesn't always have to be for what you think is a shop. Maybe you want to train your service advisor to be the bookkeeper down the road. You could get them enrolled or her enrolled into classes at a community college for accounting. And again, that could be a direct reimbursement along the way for education. So just a couple things that you
Yeah, I
haven't
mean,
thought.
this is education season, right? I'm about to turn around and go to my third conference in March. We had Vision was the first one we went to. We just were out at ATI Super Conference, and then STX Conference starts this weekend down in Orlando for World Pack. Yeah, I mean, do you think that there is any low level shops that aren't taking care of their employees going there? No, and this is all the top players that are going there. And I've already seen a lot of our clients who, a couple of them, have shut down their entire shop and take their entire team to these events. Again, great, awesome benefit for employees. We're investing in them, we're sharpening their skills, and that's really something that not everyone is doing on it. So I like it. Any other final thoughts here, Reed?
I think we've covered most of the fringe benefits that are available. There's probably a couple others. We didn't spend any time talking about life insurance or a few
Aflac.
other Aflac exactly. But most people do know that. But you might want to start thinking about it as that is another option as a benefit we could provide to the team members along the way.
Yeah, and a lot of times, even for something like the Aflac or something like the life insurance, a lot of our clients offer that stuff, and a lot of them don't even pay for that. They're just opening the doors. They're just allowing people to come in and say, "Hey, guys, no pressure." I know for sure the life insurance and Aflac people would love to come talk to your employees on this, and they'll do this for free. But realistically, some of those benefits are very affordable, and they can be very useful. Life insurance, obviously, if you die, someone's going to get some major benefit on it. Not going to, remove the fact that you're no longer there, but it's something that no one likes to think about. Great benefit when actually gets used on it. And then the Aflac, which would be disability insurance. Uh, this is a very physical job for our technicians. This doesn't mean that they're seriously disabled, but think about it. If you have someone that has a motorcycle accident or something and, has an arm in a cast for 6 months, he can't turn wrenches for the most part. And so this is the kind of stuff that can help them and help their family. And very cheap. I mean, we're talking for Aflac. I think generally what I see, if you get the Cadillac one, I think it's like $30 a month or something. It's fairly affordable. Probably went up since I've looked at it, but yeah. Last one on here. So I'll give Randy one. If someone has one more question, I'll do that one, and we're going to wrap it up here today. What about insurance for your text tools in the building? I would talk to your insurance agent. I guess this is a plug. Talk to your insurance agent and ask this question. Generally, if it is not explicitly stated on it, the insurance companies are probably not going to provide it for your text tools, but would be a great thing to offer in case something does happen. Unfortunately, we get about one shop a year, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little less, that catches on fire. Don't wait too long and find out that your insurance doesn't cover certain things until you actually have to use it. So is my tools insured? Are my customers' cars that are in here insured? Are my tires, wheels that I'm storing in here insured? Ask all these questions because you might be shocked with what you find out. What are you going to say on that one, Reed?
No, I was just going to say, having two shops burned down in the last 2 years, and one had the tools reimbursed, the other did not. I would say the likelihood of it burning down is slim, but the cost of that is so cheap. I would want to make sure my team members know I got their backs. So
Yeah.
I would be investing in it.
Yeah, and ask the questions because a lot of times when you go to look at insurance, I'm guilty of this as well. What's the premium, right? I'm not going to read through 60 pages of fine print. Go down through and write down 10 of the worst case scenarios that you can think of happening. A customer wrecking my loaner car, a customer driving into my building, an employee, driving into the toolbox. Go down through these scenarios and just go to your insurance agent. Hey, am I covered for this? Am I covered for this? If I covered for this, if not, how much would it be? And you'd be surprised. Most of this stuff, like I said, it's very rare. And so it's not like, hey, no, your toolboxes are not covered right now. But if you wanted to, Reed, that's going to cost you about an extra $112 a year. Okay, no brainer. Let's do it. The only other thing on that one that will go on this fire one, which is a very depressing way to end it, but take a lot of pictures because anytime that something like this happens, you have to have inventory of this stuff. So if you have cameras in there, great. That will give you a lot of information, but maybe just periodically go around with a video and just start videotaping all the stuff that you have. You might, hopefully you never need that, but maybe you do.
Well, people could take that to their personal life as well for their own home, as well as the shop. By the way.
Yep, yep, yep. Cool. Well, I appreciate everyone joining. Hopefully, this was insightful for you guys. If you didn't catch any of this, or if you didn't catch the entire thing, once we are no longer live, you can go back and rewatch this stuff. Share this with a friend, share this with someone that you think will enjoy it, and we'll talk with you soon. Thank you.